Hi, welcome to the Unified Commerce videocast series hosted by Aspire Systems. This is your host, Abhishek Mahajan. We will be publishing a series of vlogs wherein we will have guests and a couple of esteemed speakers from within our clients or the SMEs from Aspire Systems itself talking about what they think the current retail industry is going through and how unified commerce as a fitment or as an approach benefits retailers. I am Abhishek. I am a senior manager with retail practice within Aspire Systems, and I look into large deals and strategy and as unified commerce for an approach for the retailers. Talking more about our guest today, we have Fini Chalakumar, who heads the consulting and digital retail practice at Aspire Systems. He comes with 17 years of experience working on implementations and consulting services across the globe. He has worked with a slew of clients.
Thanks, Abhishek. Thanks for introducing. And I think you've covered it all, Abhishek. Yeah.
Thanks, Fini, and welcome again. So for today, this being the first part of our video log series, what we are going to be talking about is how and what we have heard over the period of time, retailers working with the omni-channel, and how we think that omni-channel, just like any generic evolution, needs a definition upgrade. We have all seen how from the single channel to multi-channel and the advent of new customer touch points, social media, Instagram and Facebook opening up shop for retailers have all helped out the customers to interact with the retailers in new and different ways, how the engagements are changing over the period of time. So what we want to talk about today, Finny, in this particular video log is how the current retail industry is changing and what is needed to keep the customer at the center and build an architecture that delivers seamless experience and consistent information irrespective of how and where the customer chooses to talk to a retailer. And that is what we think unified commerce is all about, and that is what I want to discuss with you. So the very first question or the very first thought that I want your opinion on, Finny, is what is the current state of retail industry if we think it from the omni-channel perspective?
Hey, thanks. I think it is important that when we talk about omni-channel or when we talk about unified commerce, we need to understand omni-channel a little more better, and because omni-channel itself is evolved over a period of time, right? We've seen retailers adopting single channel to multi-channel, and then they connected all the multi-channel, and then evolved into omni-channel. And while you talk about omni-channel, there are certain scenarios which you need to talk about, and few scenarios are like buy online, pick up in store. I think that's one of the most common channel or the most common scenario which you can talk about. And
Yeah.
then you have certain other scenarios like buy online, return in store, endless aisle, store kiosk, ship from store, in-store clienteling, loyalty points. These are some scenarios which are very commonly adopted from an omni-channel perspective. And then there are, of course, a couple of more scenarios which I want to talk about, a couple of more highlighting points which I want to talk about are omni-channel brings about a certain degree of personalization. Okay, so while you connect, what also you are expected to do is connect all the data points and be able to make sense out of it and present to the client a high degree of personalization while they transact in any of these channels. That's one. Of course, your personalization could be based on their past purchase. It could be based on the frequency, order value, product affinity, yeah. So and the other thing which I wanted to talk about is reserve online and pick up in store, right? Where you are also transferring the traffic from online to actually in store, where people can actually reserve certain products, want to come in store, try online, and then you get a chance to interact with them and transact with them and things like that, right? So these features, right, have enabled customers to transact from one channel to another. Like as I said earlier, this has led to connecting multiple systems, multiple channels. But the expectation, of course, is changing. right? It's
Correct.
just not about connecting, but providing seamless experience across the customer journey. Okay, which could either start from one channel to another channel, or it could even start from a channel which is outside your ecosystem, like a marketplace, and
Correct.
then interacting back to your channel through your customer service or something like that. And that is the true omni-channel which we are actually talking about, and that's really going to be the next phase, which we call as unified commerce, Abhishek.
A couple of good points that you talk about. In fact, the reserve online pickup in store or the personalized recommendation, as you were talking about, we also agree that the level of adoption is not as prominent as something like buy online pickup in store, which is considered like a standard stable for omnichannel.
Right.
That brings us to one point that you spoke about. So the landscape of experience expectation is changing,
Right.
but you think the earlier cases that you mentioned aren't fulfilling that?
In a way, yes. See, it comes halfway, right? You've
Mhm.
connected the channels. That is something
Mhm.
which has happened. But definitely,
Correct.
while we did that, there are certain, or we see certain gaps in this whole process as well. I'll just highlight you some of these gaps or some of these areas which can be done, definitely can be done better, and that's where I think
Mhm.
unified commerce will definitely play a role. One is, of course, areas around inventory visibility, right? As much as we've connected all these channels, what we have also seen is the fact that because of the maturity of the system, because the backend systems are not being able to scale,
Mhm.
the visibility of inventory is very, very important for you to actually provide a higher degree of maturity from an omni-channel standpoint. Like, for example, if you're, let's say, browsing on your website,
Mhm.
and you want to actually, you have a store next door, and you want to check actually the product, if you're what you're browsing is available in the store next door.
Correct.
Unless you provide that degree of visibility of inventory,
Mhm.
you wouldn't really be able to show that whether the particular product is available next door or not, right?
Makes sense.
Eventually
Mhm.
what will happen is, you are only connected the channels, but you've not connected the data. So
Right.
naturally, inventory was one of the data which I was speaking about. There are tons
Mhm.
of other things, but yeah. So what eventually will happen is, your BOPIS will end up becoming, or buy online pickup in store will end up becoming, people will select a store and buy it, but you will typically ship it from the warehouse to the store and fulfill it through the store. So in
Mhm.
essence, you have BOPIS, but you've
Mhm.
really not capitalized on what
Correct.
it should have been, right?
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
these are things which we see, and eventually what will happen is these things will drive up your cost multifold, right?
Correct.
Imagine a situation where you have to ship it from somewhere to the store,
Mhm.
and then the store has to fulfill it. All of it has phenomenal cost, and we've seen that logistics cost has been one of the biggest cost while it comes
Mhm.
to transacting online. So
Right.
naturally, that's going to have an impact. And the other thing which I can quickly think about and talk about is lack of usable information, right? We've seen,
Interesting.
while we transact in different channels, sometimes the information or the data get stored just within the channel and used within the channel. Like, for example, right, while you come to online,
Mhm.
if your customer information, if your customer behavioral information, order information is stored within the online ecosystem, naturally whatever the customer does offline is not being utilized online, right? And vice versa.
Correct.
When I walk
Mhm.
into the store associate does not know what is it that I've browsed, what is it that I've added to the wish list, what are the wish lists I've created, and he doesn't have visibility to any of that. And that is another big challenge, connecting, not just connecting, systems, but making sure you use information from one system to the other, and making data usable. And I think AI ML backed personalization have majorly,
Mhm.
have been majorly a success, and customers are experiencing that level of service from personalization engine with the check, right? That's where we want to get into.
Hmm. So two very important or interesting parts that you said. Kind of something that retailers have always been struggling is the inventory and the availability of information. But yeah, if I bucket it into the same thing, inventory can actually be the information that is available across the point. So very good thought on that. I have one question before I further delve into what you think probably can be an approach, Finney. So if that's the case, what do you think is the next generation of experiences which the customers are looking for?
Like as you rightly said, right? I mean, when you started and when you introduced, customers are now, shopping in different channels. They
Hmm.
could start a journey in Instagram or Facebook, or
Correct.
or probably the Amazons of the world. But
Hmm.
but what they expect is that the experience, irrespective of where they start, is seamless. But for our conversation, I will bucket them into three different areas. One is, of course, for a retailer. So how can they provide, or what is the next gen experience look like for a retailer? Definitely is from a perspective of inventory, where they have better inventory management, right? They have visibility across all the inventory. Managing inventory more efficiently definitely is one. Then informed decision making capabilities for the associates. That's definitely another thing, especially in the light of where stores are struggling right now.
Hmm.
In the age of Amazons, you are seeing that the footfalls in the stores are actually coming down. And
Correct.
today we are looking at how do you equip these store associates to interact with clients more efficiently, right?
Hmm.
So providing them and equipping them with relevant information, usable information, is definitely something which the stores will be looking at, right? So and the other bucket, or the other pillar which I can talk about, is for the customers. Of course, you can't leave the
Hmm.
customers out.
Of
And
course.
for the customer's perspective, I think definitely better personalization, self checkout, focused information are three areas which I can think about. In terms of providing them better experience. Personalization, self checkout, I think is something which people are now quite aware of. When
Hmm.
I say focused information, right? See, today what we see is a lot of customers do discovery in one channel, and
Hmm.
purchase in another channel. Like for example, do all the research and discovery in say online channel. Now,
Hmm.
now while they do that, you need to give them with correct focused information. That's what I meant. So like for example, if you're talking about say buying a furniture, right?
Hmm.
Today it's just not about zooming in a furniture and looking at the furniture. You're also looking at having a 360-degree view, looking at how will this particular furniture set or fit into my space. These are
Hmm.
things that we are looking at. So naturally, going into augmented reality and AR, VR kind of a feature is definitely
Hmm.
going to help. Or even talk about suggestions. Like for example, we've seen a lot of online retailers giving this option where depending on your past purchase and your return
Hmm.
patterns, they now suggest, if you go buy a particular shirt, they say, hey, this particular shirt could probably not fit you, or there's a 30% chance only this shirt fitting you. So what happens is,
Got it.
you are empowering your customers in such a way
Hmm.
that that they take informed decisions, and that's actually a win-win for both, right? I mean, because you are going to cut down on the returns, and
Hmm.
the customer satisfaction is also going to be great.
That's interesting.
And of course, let me give you a small spin here, because we
Hmm.
are now into the new normal, right? So I cannot really miss out coming from that angle
Hmm.
as well.
Hmm.
So when you're talking about new normal, right, I mean, we've seen a lot of our clients really moving to curbside pickup, click and collect as a solution, video consulting, and video assisted service as a solution, appointment based shopping as a solution. So these are also some things which are catching up in the market quite a lot. And definitely this will go a long way in adding great customer experience. Mm,
In
mm,
this
mm.
next section, what I will want to consult with you is what do you think is the approach for these challenges? And that brings us to the first question in this section, wherein I want to ask you, if you look at from a CIO's perspective,
Mhm.
what are the key considerations to enable these experiences that you have been speaking about all this while?
Right. So before we get into that, right, few things I want to highlight. I mean, I think I've done that earlier, but I just want to set the context before we move on, right? See,
Yes.
initiatives like Popes, ship from store were envisioned with correct goals, right? But
Mm-hmm.
the implementation and thought process behind them had gaps. We spoke about gaps around inventory and all of that, right? Current example of pandemic, in fact, has clearly made these gaps visible,
Mm-hmm.
right? While a
Yes.
lot of retailers had BOPIS, almost everyone had issues with implementing extensions like curbside pickup. Inventory sourced from warehouse made BOPIS as made BOPIS as ship to store. That's typically how it happened. And
Mm-hmm.
and the other example I can talk about is, of course, from a loyalty standpoint. Loyalty programs were another great addition to customers' engagement, but somewhere it got missed, and everyone launching one and the customer carrying 10 cards in their wallet is really not serving any purpose, right? The idea really was that customer service give away to collecting points and redeeming it when it could have been a greater source of customer insights. So you see, right, loyalty points really, as much as it increased the customer affinity, it lost from a perspective of giving great customer insights. So that's
Yeah.
where the miss was. So if you are looking at from a CIO perspective, right, I mean, definitely one is tailor make your plan. So when I say tailor
Mm-hmm.
make your plan, right, what we've seen across during our digital transformation implementation and roadmaps is there is nothing called one size fit all. You need to have your own plan, because why is it important? Because your systems, your practices, your culture is
Mm-hmm.
very specific to you. And
Correct.
while you build services, while you build transformation projects, you need
Mm-hmm.
to take all of this into consideration. Will your backend system be able to scale? Do you have headless kind of architecture so that you can just spin off any channels? Is that even possible? So that's definitely one area which we are looking at, or one perspective. The other perspective, of course, is to what I personally call as progressive enhancement, right?
Mm-hmm.
Something similar to what Google does. They always start small. So all your initiatives can start small. You look at an MVP kind of a model, because this is very some of these experiences could work for you, some of these experiences need not work for you, right? And as you build experiences, you typically align according to what works for you, make these small tweaks, and then get things to work for you. And I'm telling you, we have or I don't think if anybody says we've got it right the first time, I think they're lying. I don't think anybody gets it right the first time when it comes to experience, because it is behavioral
Correct.
adaptation which you are talking about here, right? So naturally,
Mm-hmm.
progressive enhancement is definitely something which we are looking at. Start small, but always try to put it in such a way, right, that you can bring everything together at some point of a time. The third one, of course,
Mm-hmm.
is a no-brainer. Business and technology must collaborate. We've seen that sometimes technology folks become very avaricious. They become very aspirational, and then they go in
Mm-hmm.
one tangent, and then the business is not able to scale up. The processes behind is really
Mm-hmm.
bad. So you have a great website, all of that, but then the actual experience of purchasing,
Mm-hmm.
going and interacting with the customer really takes a beating. And I'm telling you, lot of if you go to Google Play and see, most of the bad reviews with some of these apps will end up being on the experience side and not really from a technology side.
Yeah.
So business, it has to be a collaborative effort between business and technology. The other one which I can talk about is single view of critical data entities, right? Talk about inventory, talk about customers, talk about orders. You need to have a single view, and that
Mm-hmm.
goes a long way in servicing your customer, in providing them with great experience. So whatever you think of, make sure
Mm-hmm.
that the backend is tightly connected, it's able to provide you with a single view. And
Okay.
then, of course, analytics being you though it's something that's been across or around for a long time. analytics is definitely something which you
Mm-hmm.
will have to consider, not just from a perspective of collecting information, but how do you make it useful in various, perspectives, or in various spheres of retailing, right? From your inventory management to cost management, to making sure that your customer experience is excellent, making sure your product reviews are captured and acted upon, making sure your customer feedback is acted upon. So plays a role in every aspect of your retailing. And today, again, what we see is analytics is very, very looked at from us in silos. That cannot be the case. You need to have a connected analytics kind of an experience.
So how do you propose, Finny, that we go forward from here?
See, the mantra is to start on a journey, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're already on a journey, then continue to optimize your goal and approach them in a way that makes them adapt and scale to changing customers' behavior. So that's,
Correct.
you don't look at this as a new beginning. Probably you're
Mm-hmm.
already there. Some of your systems are in certain level of maturity, so probably you might just want to start from there.
Mm-hmm.
But we strongly recommend a 4 quadrant approach, to any digital transformation program, and unified commerce also is one of it. And
Mm-hmm.
this is core to unified commerce, right?
Okay.
The idea is to have this approach help retailers in churning out experiences that are relevant to their customers, right? While they do that, while you make it relevant to the customers, you also collect data points to continuously analyze and take corrective action.
Mm-hmm.
That's really, how we look at. And if you are looking at what the 4 quadrant approach is, the 4 quadrant being, enable, integrate. So when I say integrate, that's where we talk about single view, single view of data. Then the third one is experience. When I say experience, you're talking about adding channels, making your solution reusable within the system, outside the system. And then, of course, the last pillar would be like to analyze. And this will enable your, enterprise to integrate for building
Mm-hmm.
experiences that are continuously analyzed to evolve as self-sufficient program or self-sufficient ecosystem. That's
All
that's really what we see as the way forward, Abhishek.